Hello and welcome to the Big Reviewski. My name's Eoghan.
My name's Rory.
And we're here on YouTube. You can't see us, we know that, but we just wanted to let you know. What did we want to let them know, Rory?
We wanted to let them know that this is the sixth and final episode of TBR Spotlight focusing on Loki. So please do smash that like button, smash that subscribe button below, so you'll get all the latest Reviewski stuff into your feed. But aside from that, is there anything else we wanted them to know?
No, we love you very much. Enjoy the show.
Oh yes, enjoy. Audio only, by the way.
Hello and welcome to TBR Spotlight from the Big Reviewski, your companion podcast to Loki on Disney+. We finally made it to the sixth and final episode of the marvelous series for all time, always. My name is Eoghan, and today I'm joined by somebody who's known by many names by many people. Some call him a ruler, a conqueror, he who remains, but mostly they just call him a jerk. It is, of course, Rory. Hello, how are you? How you getting on, you big jerk?
Thank you for that lovely intro. I do appreciate every episode. You set up the sentence like, today I'm joined by, as if by every week it's someone else. It's not the same jerk every Wednesday.
Same jerk week in, week out.
Well, this is the last week in we'll have for a little while, because this is it, sixth and ultimate, but not the end of Loki, but it's the end of us with Loki for right now. So I'm very emotional today.
I can actually hear the cracks in your voices. Your multiple voices. There's so many.
You're in it.
I don't know what's real anymore. I'm questioning everything.
Well,
as you said, this is the final episode of our deep dive into Loki, but we will return. Eoghan and Rory will return for season 2.
Is that Owen Wilson and Rory?
Owen Wilson, he's back. Owen Wilson and Rory will return for season 2. But first of all, you said you're emotional. Is it a mixed range of emotion? I'm looking at your face here. Obviously, the lovely listeners can't see your lovely face, unfortunately. But I'm trying to gauge your reaction here. Is it what sort of emotions? Is it angry emotions? Is it you going to cry your eyes out emotions?
Sound Paul on sound before we started recording was like, because he's like us, gets up first thing in the morning to watch, because obviously we'll be spoiler ruining his whole day,
his whole life.
So he watches as well, and he was like, "What do you think of the episode?" And I just didn't say. I said nothing. I turned away from him. I'm keeping all my opinions to myself, to this hour-ish of a podcast. So let's just say emotional. Emotional is straight off the bat. I said it last week about Miss Minutes, heartbroken that she was evil, and it turns out I was right. She's not a nice clock lady.
You're not a nice clock lady.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I think the best thing to do is just crack straight into it, because as we said, for context, everybody, myself, Rory, and Sound Paul on Sound have literally just finished watching the full episode, and we're sitting down and we're just going to splurge all over your ears, essentially, with everything that we noticed. Sorry about that. Here's a tissue. Everything we picked up on, everything we spotted, everything we noticed during the episode. I'm sure there's some stuff we missed, so do get in touch and let us know as well. But okay, Rory, let's do this. So the final episode in the series, where we were at the end of episode 5, was we had Sylvie and Loki holding hands. I know you don't like that, Rory. I wonder, will you like some of the stuff in this episode? And they were about to cross over from the void into this mysterious Hogwarts on a hill castle in the sky type job through the smoke of Alioth. So that's where we were. So we get our little previously. They show us that. They also show us a couple of bit of Renslayer. And so, Renslayer, okay, she's popping up a fair bit in this one as well. And also the fact of Mobius telling Loki that his connection with Sylvie will bring the whole TVA down. So we got that. That's where we are.
Yes.
And then the flipping, like, just the Marvel Studios logo coming up. And I swear to God, I watched this 30 seconds about 10 times. This took me so long to get past this moment, because the first thing that we hear in the entire episode after the previously is the music from the end of Avengers Endgame when Steve and Peggy are dancing to It's Been a Long, Long Time, that lovely piece of music. They're finally getting their dance, and then all this mixed up. So what did you think of this moment? Because my head was just all over the place.
I think it was setting up, I felt like it was setting up, oh, okay, so this is letting us know that what's about to happen is on the scale of the entire history of the MCU. Yes. I think that was like the vibe they were going for, because obviously I heard, like, you can hear T'Challa screaming like Wakanda forever. You can pick out like specific ones, but I did the same. I went back and put the subtitles on, because then the names come up for the people that you're like, who was that? And some of it was like Michael Douglas, who you wouldn't think would be standing out in the opening credits, but knowing what we know about the future of Kang in the MCU, it does make a lovely amount of sense.
Interesting.
And then so it came kind of out of one universe circle. I don't know what to call it.
But, universe circle is what we're going to call them from now on.
And it popped out of that one, and you could hear like Greta Thunberg. That's the one. And who else did I hear? Did I hear Nelson Mandela?
So the first group of ones we had, you mentioned T'Challa, you hear Ant-Man, Thor, Captain America's in there, Loki's in there himself, and as you said, it felt like, oh, this is just like a mini recap of everything that's gone on in the MCU so far, and loads of those iconic lines like, I could do this all day. He's a friend from work. So it's kind of mixed tone of like, oh, there's serious stuff in there, there's funny stuff in there, and then it gradually just becomes, as you said from the subtitles, it just says indistinct overlapping chatter. And you're like, okay, where's it going? And then you hear a bit of like iconic human moments that we will all know, separate from the MCU, but supposedly that exist in this timeline as well. People like Neil Armstrong, Greta Thunberg, Malala, Nelson Mandela, and then the music as well. All these pop culture, you had Tchaikovsky in there, Beethoven, Nina Simone, and Kylie Minogue as well. Obviously, the four greatest artists of all time. Yeah, there was a bit of Kylie Minogue in there. And again,
do we know?
If you go, I'm going to have to go and check now, Antema, which one it was.
Listeners will let us know. Listeners, you'll have to let us know, because I didn't hear any Kylie. I'm very happy she's been considered one of the top 4 musical artists of all time, though.
This is it. If this is an indication of what are the greatest pieces of art that have ever been created, it is Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Nina Simone, and Kylie Minogue.
Fair. No arguments here.
100%. As you said, we come out of one universe circle, we retreat out of that into this other one. And I don't know, it's hard. Do you want to read into whether what voices they feature in one side and then what voices they feature in the other? Because the first one we hear in the new one is Vision saying, what is grief if not love persevering, which is a line that just blew everybody away whenever WandaVision was airing earlier this year. Then some Maya Angelou, Sylvie, and then we're right in it, this rock, this magic big rock with a big hole in it. So what about this huge castle where we are, and we have Sylvie and Loki standing there. So what do you think about this transition and then and where we are?
Yeah, like it's a lovely visual, like this kind of rock that he has a kind of, again, it looks like a lighthouse kind of on the rock, like it must be some kind of like time lighthouse. And I thought
it was like a prune stick, the end of a prune stick. Do you know what I mean? It kind of looks like it.
Yeah, I can see that. And they have that like one sacred timeline doing the lap around them, which is a lovely visual, but doesn't make a lot of sense, because then that would indicate that time is cyclical. No, so, but we know that's not true because they haven't got to the end of time yet. Yeah, so it's nice to look at, but probably don't think
Looks
about it
lovely.
Maybe that's the whole thing of Loki. Lovely to look at, but don't think too hard, because stuff will start not making sense anymore.
Interesting, that works for me.
Yeah, and then they pop in, and we get this fantastic, but like it continued to shatter my heart into a million pieces, jump scare from Miss Minutes. Like,
Jesus Christ! What
did you jump?
When I say
because I know you're not a horror fan at the best of times.
No, it's more that I'm not good with horror. It's like I'm a fan of the thrill after the fact. Like, here we are now, and I think my heart is literally just slowed down slightly. But I went through pardon my friend, I went through the fucking roof this morning when Miss Minutes popped up full screen, just saying, "Hey y'all," and I was like, absolutely crap my pants.
Yeah, like that was that was the final nail in the coffin. I was like, oh no, she's evil. She's not
Yeah.
good. Nobody jump scares because they're nice. Again, it was like, what is she now? Like,
so she,
it's just so many questions now about Miss Minutes, and I'm like, I know season 2 we may get to it, but it does feel like, I don't know, like I can't go down this road because I've so many nitpicky questions about this whole episode, and I could spend the rest of the hour just talking about how Miss Minutes existing inside Alioth, inside this castle, doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But she is there, and she's like, "Oh, we've got this nice offer for you. How do you feel about this kind of devil's handshake? Well, we'll make it all go away. It'll be super super cool, and you'll rule everything, and you'll get to do kissy faces together for all of time. How do you feel about that?" And you can see they're like, the show wants to set up, it's like, oh, they might do it because, you know, they're Loki. But I think we both knew. I think I knew, and I think you knew that it wasn't. They weren't, because that would be kind of a crappy end of the episode for one. But I think it was like, oh, they've come so far. They're like, no, we don't want what we thought we wanted in episode 1. What we want in episode 6 is answers and justice and blah. And she's like, oh, all right then. Well, good luck with him. And she sets up this, I can't decide if it was clever or not. She sets up this like terrifying arrival of someone. And we're like, previously in the last 5 episodes, we talked about how everything was pointing towards this one character. And so in WandaVision, I liked the reveal of Agnes. In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we guessed it regarding, well, I guessed it regarding the power
You're
broker.
Great.
I am. And I liked that for once, because there was a steadily growing theory that whoever was in the castle was going to be another Loki, like a proper top tier Loki who had managed to already run the TVA. And I was like, don't give us another, we've already seen them, they're in the show already, reveal. So I'm happy that it wasn't that. But how happy are we that it was exactly who we thought it was going to be?
Well, just before we get to that major reveal, because you mentioned a couple of things there, because I personally, you were saying, oh, was this clever? Was this not clever? I personally loved the moment of the reveal, but we will get to that, because first of all, this is where Miss Minutes, as you said, I know you were completely heartbroken, and I know that as much as people, a lot of people out there maybe want Loki and Sylvie to have a happy ending, I think deep down maybe they also didn't want that to happen. And as you said, in terms of the series, no, we don't want everything. You want it wrapped up in some explanations, but not with a big happy bow on it as well. No, we want a bit of strife and conflict in our life, because there isn't enough of that in the real world anyway. But what was fascinating here, I thought, was like everything that these, you know, actors, the audience, the fans, everyone that has invested, you know, since 2008, their time in their lives, and people who were obsessed with the comics before that as well, but specifically in the MCU, like every kind of roller coaster moment along the way, Miss Minutes just comes and practically undoes that. She's like, what do you want? Do you want to kill Thanos? Easy, grand, no bother. Do you want the Infinity Stones or the Gauntlet? No problem. And here's the Throne of Asgard while you're at it. And I was just like, no, but there were 23, 24 films to get through. Oh, that you can't just undermine that, you little evil clock. But again, I like that, because it kind of pulls the rug out from everything that we've come to know and everything that we've come to love as well, and just expands what we already thought was a huge universe into something even bigger again. And I started, there were so many moments during this episode. This was one of the first ones when I thought of you initially, and your horror at the potential ickiness that could come up between Loki and Sylvie. But she kind of hints at it. She's like, 2 Lokis in the one timeline. It's crazy, but he can make it work. And I was like, oh, Rory is not going to like any of this. So that was really interesting. And the other thing that she revealed is that this is the Citadel at the end of time. And again, I immediately thought of the Citadel of Rick and Morty, because I know Michael Waldron, the writer of Loki, was involved. We were talking about it in previous episodes as well. And he's also the writer of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So just everything is connected. So she builds it up, as you said, to this terrifying moment. But just before we get to that moment, it jumps back into the TVA, and we see Miss Minute immediately there with Renslayer again. And so Miss Minute just has this omnipotent sort of ability to just travel through dimensions, through time, wherever she wants. So it's just, as you said, there's so many questions about who and what she is. But one thing about that, and we will get to it, but I was thinking about it because we do know that the person revealed supposedly comes from the 31st century on Earth as a scientist.
Well, no, we don't.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, do you know what? Well, let me zip my mouth there, because I was just going to say, he's a scientist. He can come up with whatever Miss Minute says. That's fine. Okay. But I think the key thing here in this scene between Renslayer and Miss Minute is that when Miss Minute says, he thinks this will be more useful, and Renslayer's like, who? Who will? And there's an element of like, is she still in the dark? And she's longingly looking at this little glass stain that we've seen in previous episodes that Mobius has left there. And then I thought, are we going to find out that Mobius and Renslayer actually had a life together before? Are they actually, and since they came to the TVA, are both connected? No, that was never resolved in this episode, but it was just listen, I'm not going to call it a big swing. I didn't put those words in my mouth. I'm not saying this is a big swing. You can call it a big swing if you want. But anyway, Renslayer. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Renslayer. Mobius Renslayer. Nice to meet you. So then we're back to the Citadel. And what do you think about, I don't know, maybe it's just in the design of the place, but they have all these gold streaks and scratches all over the place. I wasn't sure whether it was the interior design or has there been some kind of battle here before or what the story was with that.
Yeah, I did notice that as well. I paused it a few times because it looked like some of the windows were just looked fake, like painted like Disneyland like castle backgrounds, and they still had those weird like lightning strike white marks through them all. So there's definitely, I'm sure there's some like a production designer somewhere along the line will explain that, but it does look like there must have been some kind of cataclysmic event in there, because you see some toppled statues and stuff inside, so there must have happened at some point to lead to all of this, I guess. Yeah,
the place is messy. It hasn't been kept well. It's dusty. It's like, come on. I know that's only Miss Minute and the person who's about to be revealed, but come on, surely with all that time on your hands, you could find time to do a bit of dusting. There were these kind of like big hooded statues. They love statues. This guy just loves statues no matter what. And obviously statues play a key role as we approach the end of the episode as well. But the lift, you hear like a little ping, lift door open, which isn't very castle-like. It's way more TVA-like.
Yep.
It's like, ding, and there's this guy sitting here. So, Roy, I'm going to sit back and I'm like, who the heck was this? Because I was kind of squinting. I was looking, I was like, right, who have we got here sitting down?
Right. So before we get too deep into who he is, I think it's interesting that the first words that come out of his mouth are very interesting to me, because I always remember, say, the first proper introduction to the Joker in The Dark Knight. He had that great monologue. The same with, was it Silva in Skyfall? Had that fantastic monologue coming out of an elevator, remember?
Ooh, that's right. And walking slowly towards Bond.
Precisely, yeah. So it's like, well, they're going to give him some monologue that's going to go down in history as this.
For the ages.
Exactly. And this is what he said.
This is wild. The two of you, same person. I mean, it's a little unnatural, but wow.
Not a great monologue, but I do appreciate that he is in line with the audience in like not being super down with the two Lokis. Like, he's not reacting to it 100% positively. So
yeah, in
that regard, I do appreciate it. But it is funny that of all the introductions he could have said, all he could think of was to remark on this self-cessed issue. So, yeah. So out comes Jonathan Majors, who was fantastic in Lovecraft Country and who has been confirmed to be playing Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is coming out February 2023. But throughout this episode, the word Kang is not mentioned once. We do hear Conqueror a few times.
Yeah.
But mostly he is named, He Who Remains?
He Who Remains.
Even in the end credits, he's still called He Who Remains.
Yes.
So, by all accounts, he is essentially Kang the Conqueror. But it is a very interesting idea for the villain. Once he kind of puts his cards on the table, which takes a very long time, and over and over again, he's like, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. It's the truth. And then a few minutes later, he's like, well, that was a lie. But this now is the truth. I'm like, oh my God. So, but when he does eventually put all his cards on the table, it's a very interesting idea behind the villain. And also, Majors' performance was giving me mega... What?
Can we like do this on 3? Because I was going to say it reminded me of something. Now, are you going to say a person's name?
Like the actor's name,
the actor's name,
or the character's name.
Oh no, you're going for a specific character. I was going for a specific actor.
Well, you go.
Okay, you go first.
No, you go first. You've interrupted me now. Go ahead. You broke my train of thought.
I told you he was a jerk. Okay, the major vibes that I was getting off him were his acting style and his delivery really reminded me of a young Denzel Washington through loads of his films, kind of that uneasy fine line between I really like this guy, he's got loads of charm, he's got loads of charisma, and kind of on board with him, and then I'm also completely terrified because I don't know what he's going to do at any moment, like somebody like Denzel Washington in Training Day or something like that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so that's what I got. But what did you go for?
I was getting Moriarty. Andrew. What's his goddamn surname? Andrew Scott as Moriarty. I was getting that erratic vibe, where he already kind of knows everything before it happens, and he's bored.
He's like 4 steps ahead.
Yeah, he's mostly bored by it, but he's mildly intrigued by the people he's currently in the room with. And again, he has that kind of almost flamboyant performance where, like, first of all, his cape is fire. Like, that is, forget about the variant jacket. I want that, like, indigo cape that he has, and he just rocks it for the entire episode. But every now and again, he'd be sitting back and relaxed and real chill. And all of a sudden, he's hopped up onto the desk and he's screaming in people's faces. So, yeah, I was definitely getting Moriarty vibes.
So you've gotten rid of your Miss Minutes t-shirt. You've gotten rid of your Loki
never got
variant
it. Disney
jacket.
never sent it to me. So,
but I'm saying, like, in terms of in the piece of clothing that you want the most out of the series so far,
right, yeah,
it's definitely because I want Richard E. Grant's like pants and horns. That's what I want. Okay. I'm going for that for Halloween. But you want Jonathan Majors, as you said, on fire, amazing looking cape and outfit. Yeah. That's fair enough.
Yeah, but like I could still wear the Miss Minutes t-shirt under that.
That's true. I suppose, like, the thing is, he's, overseeing all of time, supposedly, as we know it. And this is the one item of clothing that he's decided to wear. So he's chosen, like Nina Simone, like Kylie Minogue, he's like, this is the greatest piece of apparel that I could possibly wear. So we get that. There was one, I thought, when you were mentioning the windows earlier on, I was getting those kind of reminders of Sanctum Sanctorum, in New York, where Doctor Strange lives. Those kind of circular windows. I definitely got that
in the bbig window behind him in his main office. That was definitely that vibe for sure.
Yeah, I had a quick look because I thought, is it? It looks really like it. Is it exact? And they're very similar, but they're not identical. But again, I'd say that nothing feels accidental here. I'd say there's those little hints and reminders and teasers of, well, don't forget, Multiverse of Madness is coming, and there might be, and again, controlling time and timelines and all this sort of stuff. So it was a nice little subtle connection, possibly. Now we get Mobius confronting Renslayer very briefly back in the TVA in the middle of Major's his long, lengthy kind of exposition about who and what he is, but a brilliant little Owen Wilson moment again, because these ones, I'm sure someone's already done a supercut of them all together, but a line that definitely needs to be added to it is, she kind of says, "Oh, of course I expected you to escape, like, of all the people to get out of the void." He's like, "One man's void is another man's piece of cake." It's just like, yeah, it definitely is. But he says we were just talking about being steps ahead of people. Renslayer thinks she's got him. She's like, no, I'm going to call the hunters. That's you. You're screwed. And he's like, now that we know your secret, you're not going to do that. And you're like, oh. And he's got the pen from like, I think it was episode 2, which we had talked about. We were like, what does that mean? Franklin D. Roosevelt High School. And obviously that's nice. It's kind of, there was no Chekhov's jet ski in the end, maybe season 2.
Yep.
But there was Chekhov's Franklin D. Roosevelt High School pen, which eventually came back here. And then it cut straight to Fremont, Ohio. And really interestingly, the year 2018 in this high school, where B-20's on the run. She's been chased by the hunters. And then she's just setting it up so that I think his name is U-92, lovely name, gets to see with his own eyes. He's like, Judge Renslayer. And she's clearly like a high school teacher in the classroom, and she hasn't a clue what's going on. But do you think it was interesting just that it was such a, well, I mean, to us it feels like such a recent timeline because it's 2018. Obviously, I think we're 2021 anyway. But this is the year that Thanos did the snap on Earth, but again, we might not be on the same Earth as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is it something to do with that and some kind of connection to that part of the MCU as well?
I'd say they kept it modern for the potential payoff that real life Ravonna and real life Mobius could meet again in like the real world. I think it's interesting that she, back in the office, she was like, what have you done? Like she was fearful of what Mobius had set up. So that indicates to me that she already knew there was another one of her in the high school. But if she was in the high school, in that high school, she would have been pruned, so she wouldn't have been there.
Well, she mightn't be pruned yet. See, it's pre-pruning. Pre-pruning.
I think that, but does that not kind of... Oh, we're going down the rabbit hole.
What that does is suddenly whoever Renslayer is in that timeline pre-pruning, like the main, it's like, well, how does that affect her reality and her thinking? Like, is she like, who are these people dressed up in SWAT gear, barging into my classroom? But maybe that's her Nexus event, and then it all comes around again. Oh God,
but like, it does seem like she already knew, because she was like, "What have you done?" When all she had was where'd you get the pencil from? In the second episode, where'd that come from?
Oh well, because he had said yes. She has her kind of her souvenirs and her bits of memorabilia from various timelines and various cases. So you're right. Maybe she is closer to knowing or has more knowledge. Well, she definitely has more knowledge than most people anyway. But maybe you're right. Yes, she has knowledge of her previous existence, and as a reminder, as a keepsake, she kept that pen as one of her souvenirs as well.
Yeah. So again, she knew she was a variant pretty much this whole time. So, and she does kind of follow through the entire episode, and I was getting so mad at her, and I that's how I knew that she was performing it really well, Gugu and Bathu Raw.
Yeah.
She was like, listen, we just had to do it anyway. We had to do this. I couldn't let you ruin it. And I was like, everyone's arguing with her. She's like, it's been ruined. It's ruined. We didn't ruin it. It's like, no. Even if we don't know who the ruler is, what we're doing here is important work. And I can't let you ruin that. I was like, oh, just want to shake her. You're like, is it? Look what's happening, idiot. But she won't hear sense.
She just won't listen to you, Rory. She just won't listen. This moment between Mobius and Renslayer, you can't tell, or they both appear to be hurt by what they both perceive as a betrayal by the other. That Mobius went against the TVA, and he's saying, no, but you went against everything, like this whole thing has been a lie, and you were part of it as well. And they were saying, the speech that we had highlighted, I think, a couple of episodes ago, lovely moment between them when they were saying we're friends across time, we're allies to the end. Now, we don't know how that's going to play out in season 2. That's all set up really nicely, but at the moment they do have this conflict between them. And even when Mobius attempts to like stop her from traveling through the Tempad portal. And she's like, you're absolutely no danger to me whatsoever. And he kind of lunges for her anyway, and falls back, and she like puts him on his ass basically on the ground. And she's like, "Yep, you were right. Back here again, just very Owen Wilson." But it's this moment, because we don't see her for the rest of the episode. She disappears, and he says, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "In search of free will." Boom. But
yeah.
My question here at this point, because Miss Minutes had appeared to Renslayer.
Yes.
And I just have to go back and double check. Miss Minutes says to Renslayer, he thinks this will come in handy or whatever. Is it the Tempad or is it a Tempad, or what does she give to Renslayer? Because then Renslayer obviously questions, who are you talking about? But then is this some kind of overall contingency plan? Now that Renslayer is out of the TVA and has an awareness of what's going on, has been given something by the version of He Who Remains that knows maybe it's not going to work out so well for him. So that's why I was feeling, is that some kind of contingency plan element in there as well? Who knows?
Yeah, it definitely does feel like a season 2 plot thread. And it's like, even her line is like, to find free will. Like, to find it because you want it, or to find it because you want to stop it. Like, it's like, you're still continuing on your own path of free will being bad for everyone, because that was literally what your last sentence was that you don't want that. So maybe she's been given like coordinates for how to take out other people that we haven't mentioned in this breakdown yet. God damn it, can we just get to the good stuff?
This was it. So this is the moment now when we kind of get all the pieces of the jigsaw, well, some of them start to come together, and we are being fed little bits of information where we say, you can't kill me because I know everything that's going to happen. Here's and he literally shows him like a page of the script from Loki, and it has all their lines on it essentially. He says, I know it all, I've seen it all your scheming, all the talking, every step I paved the road, and then you guys just walk down it, and you're like, as you said, very Moriarty. It's like, you did everything I wanted you to do up until this moment. So then we get the reveal. They're like, but why have you done this? Why are you trying to maintain this order? Who are you so afraid of? And then it's just his dramatic pause. Me. And this is the moment he tells us, I've been known by many names. And as you said, he mentions Conqueror here at this point, Ruler, Jerk as well, relatable.
Yep.
But he says it's not as simple as a name. But I loved this little flashback then when he tells them the story using his little, it's not quite Play-Doh, it's kind of, it's almost like Terminator 2 kind of material, this malleable kind of thing to tell them the story.
It was very similar to what Ego did in Guardians 2.
Oh, yes, that's
where
right.
He just kind of played out with like liquid metal looking interactive videos.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. He obviously was watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as well. But again, this combination of the humor and the uneasiness as well. He's like, I love your shoes, I love your hair. Oh man, nice nose. When the other variants are complimenting each other, which would be the thing, if you bump into other versions of yourself. Interestingly, in the timeline, or in his little flashback of the various timelines coming together, they all look the same. Obviously, we know that the Lokis all look completely different, and some of them look similar. But as he said, not every version of him was so pure of heart. But he's claiming to be the one who was able to, once he encountered Alioth, to harness the power and weaponize him for the Void.
Yeah, because it was in this, because you mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted to do a slight correction.
Oh no!
He says a version of me comes from the 31st century, and that version found the multiverse. So it wasn't actually he isn't the one who found it.
That's what I was wondering.
But he is the one who got it under control. And as he said, like he puts it kind of fantastically himself, is like you can either live happily under a dictatorship or live in chaos and free will. And well, actually, here's his description of the alternative plan if it all goes to shit, I guess is the nicest way of putting it.
You came to kill the devil, right? Well, guess what? I keep you safe. And If you think I'm evil, well, just wait till you meet my variants.
It's some choice. Like, you know, do you take the risk?
Yeah.
And do you believe like, what would you do? What would you choose? Rory, what would you choose? You're like, whatever timeline doesn't involve Loki and Sylvie smooching. That's the one for me.
Well, I mean, so, yeah, like, I do enjoy it's like a Thanos idea where you're like, I get where they're coming from. I get, like, and that's what makes it a better villain. Like, and same with what's his face, Killmonger, where you understand the ideology, you just don't necessarily agree with the practice they use to put it into motion.
You don't, you know, it's a good idea, guys, but does there have to be so many dead innocent people?
Yeah, like, and I guess we won't know until we're introduced to some of his variants and how nasty they can be. Because as he says, like, this version of him is just a human, flesh and blood. And initially I was like, but he can teleport. And I was like, oh no, he can't. He's got that thingy that just helps him move around.
Yeah.
So there must be some other variants of him that have heightened powers, and we won't know what they are for a while yet. But it is an interesting conundrum for sure.
I know we've mentioned Groundhog Day before, especially whenever Loki was confronted with Sif in the little time cell. And just had to relive that particular moment over and over again where he gets punched in the face and hit in the nuts. But this felt very Groundhog Day just whenever He Who Remains was saying, I've done this. Like, so I've lived this life a million times, so many times. I know exactly. So I just reminded of those moments in Groundhog Day whenever Bill Murray like steals the money out of the back of the security truck, and he just knows every movement that every person and every line that they're going to say as well. But then immediately that switched to whenever he kind of revealed this plan to them, and he gives them this offer of like, listen, you know, this isn't I don't really want to do this anymore. Also very relatable when he was just like, I'm just really old and tired, and I couldn't be bothered to do this.
Super villainies for the young.
Yeah, exactly, for the young and for the hungry. But I was like, oh, it's like Willy Wonka. He's put them to the test. It's like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
You know, they travel the whole way through. They pass all his tests and any obstacles that he happens to put in front of them. But ultimately, it's all for him to find a suitable replacement or somebody that is worthy of taking his place whenever he decides to retire and give them all the candy and all the chocolate. So it was that mixture of like jumping from Groundhog Day to Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. But I loved this moment. But it's at this crucial moment then you start to hear thunder rumbling outside, and you're not sure what's going on. And he kind of reacts. He's like, "Uh-oh, we just crossed the threshold."
He's very
and this
good,
moment, as you said, say it again.
He's very good. The actor Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors is, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not kind of you don't just throw around. Well, I know I don't throw around a compliment. Like, he genuinely reminds me, acting wise, as I said, of Denzel Washington, because he was carrying off every version of himself that he was playing in this moment. Because you're right, it feels like suddenly like this is a different character sitting there, because he's unsure, he's uneasy, and he seems slightly scared but excited as well, because he genuinely has no idea of where it's going to go. Because as you said, this is the moment where he says, no, I fibbed. I knew how it was going to go, but I have no idea what happens from here on in. And then we get this sort of, not necessarily a payoff, but they have been building to it, where they keep hinting at, can these two Lokis, can Loki and Sylvie trust each other? And this is what it boils down to, because before it got to this point, I was like, oh, it doesn't feel like we're going to get like a fisticuffs kind of fight scene, because it doesn't feel like that kind of finale. But they have found, Kate Herron, Michael Walton, they have found a way of including a version of that in this, because but you do feel that the stakes are high here, or they were, in terms of I felt as I was watching. But you were just happy again that they were arguing again, weren't you?
Again, I don't think their hand-to-hand combat scenes are great in this. I feel like, comparatively to some of the stuff we've seen in Marvel before, even in Falcon and Winter Soldier, I just feel it's very under choreographed. It's just a bit clang, clang, like everyone is just... It just feels like they're hitting their swords against each other and not actually having a fight.
It's drama school fighting.
Yeah, it's very like 1930s Robin Hood stuff, and I'm just like, no, I don't, and I didn't believe the fight at all, really. I did enjoy the line where the fundamental problem was that she doesn't know how to trust, and he can't be trusted.
Yes.
That's a great line. And I did, it was fine, and you could like Jonathan Majors in the background is like, woo, like just kind of like every now and again his head will pop out and be like, who's winning the fight? And then like Loki basically throws himself on the sword almost to like get his point across. He's like, listen, I think you're great, and I don't think we should fight anymore, and I think we just need to listen to what he's saying. Let's not immediately jump to murder. I know that's what you want, but let's talk about it. And she's like, okay, we'll talk about it, but first I'm going to smooch you. And I was unhappy.
So this moment, whenever, as you said, he almost like falls. Whenever he falls, it's time for the icky issue with Rory Cashin. So at this moment, whenever he kind of materializes out of thin air, and like fair play to him because her blade is right as his neck. So whatever way he timed that, because I immediately thought, oh, that's not him.
Yes, I thought that too.
That's like an illusion or that he's created. But obviously, camera up close in the two of them. He has his back to who? What are we calling Jonathan Majors? Are we just going to call him Kang?
Kang for short for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many words in his name. Like he who remains, but he remains behind them anyway, as you said, poking his head up. But this was the moment I thought, oh no, we've been in this position before. I think at the end of episode 4, and this is when Loki was pruned from behind, and I thought, oh, something's going to happen to him here again because Kang is going to do something here behind him. But it wasn't about Kang, it was about Sylvie, and she tricks him. The moment happened, and I have it in all capital letters. I was like, it happened! Loads of exclamation marks. They kissed. I was like, but were you happy enough that it wasn't a real kiss? It was a trick kiss because she was using it as part of the fight to trick Loki into sending him back to the TVA. So it was a conniving move on her part. It wasn't true love, was it?
Let me clarify this. Let me just put all this under one umbrella for you. I don't care what the circumstances are that led to this situation. Loki is kissing his sister self.
They're not sisters.
Sister self, I just said it. It's basically Loki in a wig, and I hate it. And they kissed. Do not enjoy. It was I was like, it can't be as bad as maybe my mind has led it to be. And to be fair, her kind of shunting him through the portal did kind of curb that edge a bit, because she wasn't like, I just love you too, let's smoochy moochy, yay. But I still hated it. I do not like. No.
What about like Loki's relationship with the other Lokis, like Richard E. Grant, Kid Loki, Boastful Loki? I know they didn't kiss, but they all have different types of relationships as well.
So what? What's that going to do? Fundamentally that
but they're not all brothers. Do you know what I mean?
And they didn't kiss. If he'd gone to smooch Richard E. Grant, I would have a similar problem.
A similar problem. Okay, fair enough.
No, absolutely not. No, thank you.
One point on that, or on all the other Lokis and Sylvie, at any point have we ever seen another female Loki anywhere? There's been no mention, no talk, and even I suppose Tom Hiddleston did mention in the previous episode. He said, "Have you guys ever met a female variant of ourselves?" And I think they all say no. Or Richard E. Grant says that sounds terrifying.
No, and I think the theory is that like her just being the female Loki is her nexus point, is what kind of got her pruned in the first place. If that's the case, would she not have just been pruned immediately
at birth,
and not wait 6 or 7 or however old years she was? So we actually still don't know what her nexus event was.
The reason for the pruning.
So no, and it's a fair assumption to make that that's the reason. It just, they'll have to explain why it took them a few years to get around to it. So Smoochie through the portal, hated it. Not at all.
Trick
No, thank you.
Smoochie kicks him through the portal.
I don't care. Listen, are you telling me that if a sibling of yours kissed you through a trick, that makes it okay?
No, it's not a sibling of mine. It's me.
Is that better?
It depends how much you love yourself. We talked about it. Self-care and self-love.
There's a massive difference between self-love and self-gratification.
At this moment, she, after the smoochy and the icky issue, she turns around and it's understated. She stabs him. She stabs Kang. She kills him dead in the seat. And, the intake of breath, does she?
No, she does. She does. It's just, I wish she hadn't. Because right. So Marvel have a problem in my eyes in that they keep repeating some of their own plot points. Mm-hmm. And in this one, I was like, don't do it. Please, just don't do it again. And they did. And it's the heroes creating their own villains. And that's what she's done here. I think the biggest example, and I know everyone thinks Thanos was the biggest villain in the MCU history, but I personally, I'm going to make an argument that Tony Stark is the biggest villain in MCU history. And I'm going to explain to you why.
There's a hot take.
Right, so in Iron Man 1, right, he is essentially the reason why Obadiah Stane goes evil, because he's like, we're going to do this whole other company and blah. Iron Man 2, it's his family that causes Whiplash to get kind of shunted out.
He wants
and
revenge,
also, because he wasn't nice to Justin Hammer. Justin Hammer is not nice to him.
Yeah.
He is the reason why Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3 goes bad.
It's always personal.
He created Ultron in Age of Ultron. He dropped a bit of a city on Sokovia, which was what caused Zemo to be the bad guy in Civil War. He got rid of the workers, let's say, at the start of Spider-Man Homecoming, which is what causes Vulture to go bad. And he stole other people's tech that made them corral together and be led by Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home. So they keep looping back to you cause your own villainy. And I think when it was going that way in this, it was like, oh, just do something else. And unfortunately, they, with her and this version of him, they did it again.
Well, there's two things on that. One is, how dare you say something bad about Tony Stark? He loves cheeseburgers. He loves his family. Do you know what I mean? R.I.P. And he says things like, "I love you 3000." So you can't hate somebody who says something like that.
He stole
that
from his daughter, so she's going to be a villain
true,
too.
Yeah. She's the real hero here, or maybe the villain. But the other thing is, I know what you mean about creating your own villain, and we'll obviously see what the consequences are of this particular stab. But with it as well, obviously they're tying it in with Sylvie's characters. Like, this is the one thing she's wanted. She's wanted the answers, and she's wanted to take revenge on whoever was responsible for taking her out of her timeline, who was the man behind the curtain, as she said. And so it's that kind of thing. We've seen it in films and TV shows a million times. It's like, this won't make you happy. This won't fix everything. If you go through with this, I know you want to do it, but it's not the right thing to do. So I didn't mind that she went ahead and did it, because we see loads of times that people don't do that, and they go, all right, okay, I won't. And then she just kind of sits there. She just breaks down.
Yeah. I was surprised she didn't ask him what was the reason why you took me out.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So...
That would have been a nice moment. So there's that. There's one little detail I meant to say throughout this episode, at this not necessarily just at this point, but he's eating an apple. We know, like they said, he's a man, flesh and blood. But just that reminded me of, because it's an apple that Doctor Strange first uses to kind of demonstrate how he's now able to control time, and the apple is eaten and then it's kind of reformed as a whole apple again. So I just thought it was interesting that he's just has this little character detail where he's just walking around munching an apple, telling everybody how he controls all aspects of time and space.
I was getting more of an Adam and Eve vibe from that.
Yeah, definitely that as well. Yeah, 100%.
He's alone in the garden at the moment, and he's waiting for his Eve, which is probably Ravonna. But now he isn't, because he's a dead.
He dead. It's at that moment, speaking of time and space, we get the look outside to this, as you said, this beautiful looking timeline, and it reflects the images that we've been seeing on the screens previously in the TVA, where it's lovely and smooth and flat, and then it all starts to branch out because who knows what way it's going to. And then again, it creates this beautiful looking, what I presume is now the multiverse.
Yep.
That looks like this lovely celestial kind of galaxy in the sky, and the multiverse being created. And that's why I was like, oh God, does everything we know, has it all been a lie up until this point? And then cut back to the TVA, we do see the screen reflecting that image again, and sad Loki, a really long shot here on Tom Hiddleston as it kind of pans in or zooms in on him, and he's hurt. He doesn't know what to make of it. Well,
he's
shaking your head. He's heartbroken.
It's very sad. Because
his non-version of himself, he thought they loved each other.
I like to think he suddenly realised when they kissed, was like, I shouldn't have done that.
This is not. How many flagons of figgy port have I had? I should not have been doing this whatsoever. And then again, classic TV and movie trope. The focus in on the eyes, and then it's like boom, his eyes open, and he's got this new sense of, okay, I'm resolved to do something here. I'm going to take action. But what did you think of this moment? He's running through the TV. He's like, we've made a terrible mistake. Someone is coming. Countless different versions of a very dangerous person, and then this moment, which I didn't see coming.
No, me neither.
This twist was amazing. I thought whenever Mobius and B20 turned him, and they're like, okay, listen, you're an analyst, and I thought that was just a nice. Oh, he's calling him an analyst. Because
I thought that too. I was like, listen, let's work the problem. I thought that's the vibe you're going for. But before that, we get one tiny cut back to Mobius, and the B-15 is looking at the branching timeline under
20. She's B-20.
Sorry, B-20.
B-15, that's her cousin. Come on.
Oh, sorry. And they're looking at the branching timeline on the retro telly. And Mobius is like, there's no going back now. She responds, who said anything about wanting to go back, or something along those lines. So, and then when we go forward, and Loki's like a raving lunatic, and they're all like, who are you exactly? And like, what's the problem? So in that earlier scene, what were they talking about when they said there's no? Something must have just happened to warrant them. And then we even see them looking at their time pad, and they're like, does he want us to sort all of these branching timelines out? And like, so does that new Kang want them to go back to pruning to my head? And then he like looks out across the TVA, and we see one of the many statues in there has been updated, let's say, to an actual likeness of Kang, which gave me, I know this isn't the best comparison, but do you remember the remake of Planet of the Apes where Mark Wahlberg sees
Lincoln,
Tim Roth Lincoln monkey face? And I was there were so many, just like, because it ends on another statue which has been changed from what we think we knew it as before. Yeah. And it raises so many time travel questions. I was like, this isn't the best comparison, because that was a bad film.
That was a bad film, but and that comparison didn't strike me because at the time until you mentioned. But no, it's bang on, because that's the two twisty moments here. Or one is when Mobius and B20 turn him and say, "Who are you? What's your name?" Like, let's get to the bottom of this. And you're like, oh my God, they don't know who he is. And then it's kind of him looking around and trying to spot, what the heck is going on here? And he looks out the window and then sees the statue. Go on.
Because not only did they not know who he is, no Lokis. They don't know any, like, Loki as a concept, as a person, doesn't exist. Because if they don't recognize him And most of the Lokis, even though some of them do look different, most of them look the same. So
Yeah,
every other Loki would have to be gone from the multiple timelines as well.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like we have a definitive answer on that. But you're right; they don't recognize him, and based on the original version of the TVA, as you said, so like the majority of them just seem to be versions of Tom Hiddleston as well. But we do know they can be different as well. But the thing that you mentioned there about what were Mobius and B20 talking about prior to bumping into Loki, if their existence is just going along normally here. But I think maybe Renslayer doesn't exist in this version of the TVA. So their connection is, if there's just one statue as opposed to 3 timekeepers, and it's of Kang, I think maybe Mobius B20, there's less of the timekeepers are separate and they're up in that room and only a few people can go and see them, or the few people that go and see them or that have a relationship with them, it is Mobius. And it is B20, and they know, is this what he wants us to do? Because maybe he's a lot more present as a boss in the TVA in this version of the timeline, if that makes sense.
It does, but I like, what I'm confused about is they seem to be immediately reacting to the events that have happened in the Hogwarts Disney Castle with Sylvie, where the branching timelines have just started to branch.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my god, this is so difficult to explain with words. In the when Loki arrives to Mobius at the end, they're like, oh my god, like they it seems like they're living in a timeline that has been like that for a very long time. But they're only immediately reacting to the suddenly branching timelines. Does that make sense?
It does. I think maybe, obviously, more of this will come out in season 2. But again, we don't know what has happened just prior to we know what we've experienced insofar as we've seen Sylvie stab him, we've seen time catch up with him, and he doesn't know what way it's going to go with Kang. But in this particular timeline where Loki has found himself, again, because Sylvie transported him there. So did she know? Was she just going, back to the TVA with you, but now the TVA is completely different? But whatever happened just immediately prior to that moment in this particular timeline, for all we know is, Kang, or the version of him here, could have given them a heads up. A memo could have gone out to all the staff going, big change is coming, something's happening, blah, 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 everything we prepared for, here we go. And she says, things like, no turning back now. So maybe they do. Again, who knows whether that will come out in season 2. I guess we'll find out.
I mean, yeah, like it just set up lots of interesting, because God knows when we might get a season 2 for this.
Yeah,
there's a lot to mull over. I'm already very excited for the breakdowns that the entire internet are going to put together over this. Yeah, and as we said, we know the events will likely directly impact Spider-Man 3 out this December, Doctor Strange 2, which is out next March, and then Ant-Man 3, which is out 2023. And who knows where Loki season 2 might fall in that timeline. Joke, lol. So there's a lot to mull over. I do like that they have given some full stops to some of the plot threads, and have given enough interest, I guess, for us to want to come back for a second season. I didn't think the season overall was as good as WandaVision, but I do think it was better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I think better than Falcon and Winter Soldier, as much as I enjoyed that show as well. I don't know, I kind of elements of this I think I enjoyed more so than WandaVision. Obviously, I'm trying to remember, WandaVision had way more episodes. It had about 9 episodes, if I remember correctly.
It did, but more of them were like 20-odd minutes long.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So obviously a slightly different setup there. But no, I had an absolute ball, like start to finish, watching the show. And again, I can't wait to sit down and watch them again, like back to back. I have been rewatching them each week anyway, but just kind of sitting down and watching them now that they're all available to watch on Disney Plus. Now, speaking of WandaVision, we get a brilliant kind of mid-credits, end-credits sequence at the end of that show. But in this one, the only thing that pops up here, what?
It was so lame.
It was because it was like, oh, it's a case file. It's Loki Laufeyson. You see, because then again, does Loki, is that the name that he's given in, in this new place? But obviously then it's like, oh no, this isn't meant to be taken seriously because it's just a gag for Loki will return in season 2.
Yeah, it was like a Bond. You know when Bond movies like Bond will return in, like it was. I get it. I understand that they wanted to kind of piss off the fans a bit and like, oh, you think it's something cool? No, it's just letting you know. But like, we already knew season 2 was coming. Like we knew that for a while. So yeah, like that was annoying. That annoyed me. That like maybe that's why I'm feeling a bit sour about it, because I was like, I almost thought that at the end of it they might have the trailer for Spider-Man 3, because it's out in less than 6 months now.
Yeah.
Like even like a 30-second teaser of because again the multiverse, and I was like, maybe they're holding back on the trailer for such a big film for so late because of the events of this show. And I thought, well, to be fair, I thought that about Black Widow as well, because I thought they might fold in Loki somehow into Black Widow, and that was incorrect.
So I was just about to ask you that very question, because you've seen Black Widow.
Yes.
And in fact, anybody, again, Marvel fans, you should go and check out Rory's interview with David Harbour, one of the stars of the brand new Marvel film, because who knew Marvel made films as well? They're really good at it. Maybe they should make, or not just the TV shows.
Do both.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Black Widow yet.
Yeah.
So that was my question, not going into spoilers, just in terms of the connection of Loki and Black Widow, but not so much as you're saying there.
No, because I had thought the way they timed the release of Loki and then Black Widow dropping right in the middle of Loki running, I was like, ooh, maybe something happens in Loki that is set up to have impact in Black Widow, but nope. It was just a coincidence. That was it.
Black Widow kisses her sister. That doesn't happen.
It does not happen. No, it does not happen. And let me just clarify that right here, right now.
Fair enough. So I think was there anything else we've covered pretty much each moment? As you said, there's bound to be other little delicious details and nuggets that will fall out of the episode over the weekend. Maybe little things that were kind of hinted at throughout the entire series. But I think it's about time to call it a day on this series of TBR Spotlight.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sad about it. As I said, like Miss Minutes turning on me.
That's really affected you, hasn't it?
Chekhov's jet ski not landing the way I would have liked. There's a few. We've season 2. I know we've season 2. I know, and that's the only thing that's like stopping me from crying right now.
Okay. Well, as He Who Remains says, you can't get to the end until you've been changed by the journey. Has this journey changed you, do you think, Rory, in any way whatsoever?
It's changed my sleeping patterns on Wednesdays for sure. I have to get up earlier.
You're like, I hate getting up early.
And it's also it has not changed my opinion on people kissing their sisters.
I knew, do you know, something just told me that's where you were going to. You just can't let that issue go. Don't knock until you try it. All episodes of Loki are now available on Disney Plus, and even more importantly, all episodes of the Big Reviewski are also available for your lovely listening pleasure. Loki Doki, that's it.
Oh, we used it in the end.
We eventually used it just for everybody. We kept saying Loki Doki, like not during the recording. We're like, oh, we keep forgetting to say Loki Doki.
Yeah.
So Loki Doki.
Loki Doki.
Thank you, Rory, for everything, all your big swings, and your moral high ground as well. You're going to miss them.
I'll miss both of those things.
Thank you to Sound Paul on sound, and thank you, Paul, for getting up early as well and watching the show. Well, I mean, that's just so that we didn't spoil it for you. So
yeah, that was more self-preservation rather than
exactly. It's actually quite a selfish thing to do, Paul. So yeah.
Never let
and then, as ever, thank you to everybody, all of you listening, and everybody who joined us on this Loki loving journey. Whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe, because the universe is in the balance. We need you to do it in order to preserve the timeline. You need to subscribe. So hopefully that doesn't sound too desperate, right? You can get the Big Reviewski wherever you get your podcasts. And Rory?
Yeah.
For all time.
Always. That sounded far more romantic, I think, than I had intended.
Gives a smooch.
No. Ooh.